Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We will begin our House Insurance Subcommittee calendar for the day. It is Tuesday, March 23rd, the year 2021. Shelley, on the microphone, could you please call the roll?
Representative Sapicki? Hicks? Kumar?
Here.
Lafferty? Mitchell?
Here.
Rudder?
Here.
Smith? Here. Terry?
Here.
Thompson?
Here.
Chairman Hawk?
I am here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The chair detects a quorum, and we will begin our business today. Ladies and gentlemen on the committee, do we have any personal orders? Any recognitions from anyone on the committee? All right, seeing none. Just a bit of housekeeping as we begin, and I'll ask the gentleman to my right to clarify if I'm mistaken, but we have had requests for some bills to be rolled, and I'll go through those announcements as we begin right now. Item number 4 on your calendar, House Bill 1398 by Chairman Helton. A request has been to roll that bill for 1 week. Item number 5 on your calendar, House Bill 979 by Chairman Williams. The request from Chairman Williams has been to roll that bill 1 week. Forgive the pause. Item number 10 on our calendar, item number 2 at the request of Chair Lady Smith. We would request to roll this for 2 weeks, or 1 week. Forgive me, clarification. House Bill 0002, House Bill 2 will be rolled for 1 week. Item number 11 on our calendars, House Bill 636 by Representative Chair Lady Smith will be rolled 1 week. And item number 12, House Bill 1258, House Bill 1258, also by Representative Smith, the request has been to roll for 1 week. All right, thank you very much. Without objection. Thank you very much. All right, we are on our calendar. We will begin with item number 1, and thank you for everyone in the audience today as well as viewing at home. We appreciate that. We will have some testimony on some pieces of legislation as we go forward this afternoon, so thank you for our attentiveness. We'll begin with item number 1 on our calendar, House Bill 766. The last name is spelled G-A-N-T, but it's actually pronounced Vaughn for those of you who... and I had to have that clarification myself, so now that I know how to pronounce G-A-N-T, Chairman Vaughn, you are recognized on House Bill 766. Before we recognize the motion, Chairman Sapicki, you're recognized.
Do we have confirmation from Leader Lambert that this is the person he's chosen to run this bill?
Whew, that could be a long question and an even longer answer. So I will signify that we have confirmation that this is the representative to be sponsoring the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, you are recognized. You have a motion and a second on House Bill 766.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And let me just say this: the leader has opposed this to
The National Association of Insurance Commissioners have model language with regards to cybersecurity and what to do with data breaches. This takes that act and puts it into Tennessee law. It basically requires all licensees in Tennessee which fit into the size requirements to provide modern data security protections to their systems and also alert the department if there has been breaches. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. You've heard the description of the bill. Any questions or comments? Forgive me, that is a description of the amendment. We have a motion and a second on the bill. Do we hear a motion and a second? The explanation you've heard is Amendment 5524. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All those in favor of amendment number 1, House Bill Tracking Code 5524. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Amendment 5524 is on the bill. You have heard it explained now as amended. Any questions or comment on the legislation? Chairlady Smith, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm just curious, is this coming as a result of a breach within insurance or some type of cybersecurity issue, or is this just Tennessee being proactive?
Let me say, I cannot point to a specific incident. However, there are 11 states, many of them throughout the Southeast, which have already adopted this type of bill to start requiring the insurance companies carry, and this applies to particularly large insurance carriers. What they want to protect all the sensitive information that these folks carry, but I can't point to one specifically, but I do know that this is working its way through the country.
Thank you. And not to editorialize, but I will. I think it is largely a proactive measure. So thank you very much. All right, are you ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 766 to full committee, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves forward to full committee.
Thank you, sir. I've enjoyed my time here with you today.
Thank you, Chairman Vaughn. All right, we're ready for item number 2 on our calendars. House Bill 1195 by Representative Garrett. We have a motion and a second. Representative Garrett, I believe that we do have an amendment that you're bringing forth. Tracking code is 5592.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. I plan to.
Yes, we have a motion, and we do have a second on amendment number 1. Tell you what, let's go ahead and adopt the amendment. You can explain the bill and the amendment as we adopt it. All those in favor of placing amendment tracking code 5592 on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Chairman Garrett, you are now recognized on House Bill 1195 as amended. Please give us a description, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm kind of calling this myself the insurance transparency bill. This facts that led me to file this legislation actually happened to me. Personally, back in early fall, my doctor ordered me to get an MRI. And after 60 days of scheduling the MRI, I finally was told that it was actually denied. And I did not know the reasons why that it was denied. A little frustrating on my end. Well, come to find out, the company that was going to perform the MRI asked for additional information from my doctor. My doctor never got that, or he got it, maybe they overlooked it, or whatnot. It was a simple request for additional information to make it medically necessary why I needed an MRI. Well, what my bill does is, what I realized is that there's no mechanism to let the patient know that either the provider or the doctor or the institution has requested additional information from the insurance, or the insurance company's requested additional information. So what this bill does is that if either the doctor or the insurance company requests additional information, that communication has to be transcribed to the patient. Now, I have to say, this is a highly regulated industry, and both sides, both the provider sides, the stakeholders, and both from the insurance companies have helped me draft this legislation, or in at least support of it. And I cannot tell you how, I've never worked with this group as much as I've worked with them over the past 10 days, and I can't tell you how well they know their industries, and I appreciate them trying to solve what I think is a problem for a patient not knowing when they want to schedule their MRI. Luckily, I didn't have to take off work for those 3 times that I scheduled the MRI and had to cancel it because my doctor simply just did not respond to the insurance company requesting more information. So hopefully, with the patient being involved in that process, I could have simply called my doctor and said, hey, doc, please let them know what information they're getting so I didn't reschedule this 3 or 4 or 5 times and it took me 60 days to get there. So this legislation is designed to keep the patient in the loop when a request like that in a pre-authorization setting is made. So with that, committee, I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Representative Garrett. Questions or comments? Chairman Kumar, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was your MRI okay?
Well, I never got one because it was denied in the end. But to kind of go along with that, But no fault to my provider or the MRI company. But my wife had a similar issue that was traveling along the same sort of lines that I was. And the only reason why we got her CT scan approved, because I was expecting some pushback from the insurance company to cover that. We got that taken care of because I was ready for it. And that's kind of where this sparked up, is that if I was ready for it, I would have been able to let the doctors know to give the information back to the insurance company that were requesting. So it was successful for my wife. Not quite successful for myself, so.
No, thank you. You do bring to light an existing problem where there's so much paper and information that flows back and forth, it gets lost. And I think keeping an informed patient in the loop would really make it more convenient and less time lost in that sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just trying to clarify in my notes that I had that there was possibly some amendatory language that was going to come through. Could you speak to that?
Yes, the insurance side had some utilization review board that this has to go through, and we got that amendment right before the deadline to file it for this committee, but they left out some language, so we couldn't get it corrected. And so it's still going to be the same language that everyone's agreed upon once we get that amendment to full. So there will be something that we'll be adding that will incorporate the entire process of going back and forth this communication.
Thank you.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you. And Chairman Terry, to your point, the chair has been made aware of other amendatory language and the timing of that particular issue, realizing that this is essentially worked out in discussion with Chairman Kumar and others. We feel comfortable moving this bill forward and allowing that committee to go on in, that amendment to go on in full committee. We will have another situation much like that in a moment in the subcommittee as well. So
Thank you,
we all
Chairman
feel comfortable. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we are voting on House Bill 1195 as amended to go to full insurance committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Garrett. We are now on item number 3. And Chair Lady Hazelwood, if I'd seen you first, I would have taken you up before those other two gentlemen. But now that I see you in the corner, Chair Lady Hazelwood, you are recognized. House Bill 181. We have a motion and a second on the legislation. You're recognized, Chair Lady.
Thank you. This is House Bill 181, as you said. It does have an amendment that makes the bill.
Having a motion on the amendment. The tracking code is 4830. I'm assuming the amendment will make the legislation. All those in favor of adding amendment 4830, please signify by saying aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. We are on your bill as amended, Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As those of you who have served in the legislature for a while, you'll be very familiar with this bill. This is the Tennessee Hospital Assessment Bill. It was first passed in 2010, and it's an annual voluntary assessment that the hospitals put on themselves that brings in, this year will bring in $602 million that will be used by the state to draw down matching federal funds, and that will bring a total of $1.7 billion into TennCare. So it's an incredibly important component of our TennCare budget. This year's bill establishes the rate of the assessment that generates that $602 million at 4.87%. And that assessment is based on data from the 2016 Medicare cost report. And it's the same base rate and year as assessment as in 2019. And just as a refresher, again, for those of you who have been around a while, what this money will do is make sure that we do not have to make cuts in TennCare programs such as rate reductions that we pay to providers or funding for critical access hospitals, graduate medical education, and that we won't be limiting benefits. So again, an important point to note, that the legislation continues to prohibit hospitals from increasing charges to offset this assessment. So this is not a pass-through. This is a genuine assessment on the hospitals themselves. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand ready for any questions.
Any questions or comments from members? Question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 181 to full insurance committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chair Lady. Did I butter you up well enough at the beginning of my comments? Did I?
It's never enough,
Okay.
but you're making progress.
Point duly noted. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Right. Now we will transition to item number 6 on our calendars as we're going through. Item number 6 is House Bill 1379 by Chairman Kumar. Chairman Kumar, you are recognized. I believe we have an amendment on this legislation as well. We have a motion and amendment on House Bill 1379. Amendment number 1 is drafting code 3794.
I think it's,
All right. Amendment code drafting 3794. I'll entertain a motion. Yes, I'll restate that. Tracking code 3694. We have a motion and a second on amendment number 1. Again, to reiterate, tracking code 3694. All those in favor of placing amendment number 1 on the legislation, please signify by saying aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Chairman Kumar, you are now in a position to be recognized on House Bill 1379 as amended, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment makes the bill. This House Bill 1379 is the Tennessee Pro-Family Building Act. We know that there are challenges to parenthood in today's society. But at the same time, we also know that parenting is a most wonderful adventure and a blessing. Considering the tremendous advances in medical science today, treatment is available for couples who wish to start a family but are not able to do so for medical reasons. Unfortunately, the expenses of treatment for such conditions can be overwhelming and beyond the reach of many. That's where insurance comes in, the basic concept of insurance being that it is meant for conditions or situations that are rare but very expensive. Infertility treatments certainly qualify for such a circumstance. I'm touched by the deep commitment of these couples who want to start a family and are not able to afford it, and the conditions that they have to go through to fulfill their dream of parenthood. This Tennessee Pro-Family Building Act seeks to make insurance coverage available to these would-be parents who are deeply committed and would indeed be very loving parents. We do have some very committed parents who would like to testify about their experience, if you please.
Yes, and Chairman Kumar, we have been given notice that some individuals would like to speak in favor of this legislation. We have Chelsea Caldwell, Molly Walker, and Andrea and Alex Kraft. Feel free to, we'll see whoever wants to be first. You can come on up to yes, we'll let you join us there at the table. We will go into recess, and we will recognize, if you could, and the request has come, I will cap your time at 3 minutes each. We've had the conversation, and as you discuss the legislation. Molly, as I look at you, Ms. Walker, I'll let you begin. So, Molly, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, who you're with, and then begin your testimony. You're recognized, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chairman Hawk, and thank you so much, committee members. It's an honor to be here before you today. My name is Molly Walker, born and raised in Collierville, Tennessee. I'm a believer, a wife, a mom, a daughter, a banker, active Rotarian and chamber member, an infertility warrior, and as well as co-founder of Tennessee Fertility Advocates. And I thank you again for this opportunity to share my story, but also testify on behalf of over 7,000 men and women in our grassroots organization, Tennessee Fertility Advocates. Infertility is classified by the American Medical Association as a disease that affects 1 in 6 couples. It is important to point out that infertility is not just a female-only issue. 1/3 of infertility is male factor, 1/3 is female factor, and 1/3 is unexplained or both. I'm a part of that 1 in 6 statistic. After years of suffering in silence with my disease, I now stand before you, sharing my story and advocating for thousands of Tennesseans because I refuse to let infertility win. My husband and I tried for years to conceive both of our children. Fast forward to today, and I'm a mom of 2 babies in heaven and 2 here on this earth. Taylor and I have a beautiful 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. However, the road was not easy. The wait was long. It was emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially draining. I was ashamed and embarrassed that my body wasn't doing exactly what it was created to do. Thankfully, I was able to conceive and carry my babies with the help of medication. I did suffer from depression. I missed many days of work for appointments with my therapist because infertility and the miscarriages at times were almost more than I could actually bear. I share this with you because my story reflects 97% of those diagnosed with infertility. This 97% are able to treat the disease with medications and/or minimally invasive surgeries. Only 3% actually require assisted reproductive technology treatments such as intrauterine insemination, which is IUI, or in vitro fertilization, which is IVF. And while my story has a happy ending, many Tennesseans are unable to have families because of the financial barriers to care. As co-founder of Tennessee Fertility Advocates, I've received thousands of stories from my neighbors, but also yours, that are absolutely heartbreaking. So today, I sit here before you for the teachers and the police officers who spend their days teaching other people's children and protecting the families you represent, yet there is no coverage to grow their own. For the couple who sold their home in order to afford treatment, for the 30-year-old female with no children who was just diagnosed with breast cancer, I'm sitting here again before you for them. This is now the perfect time for Tennessee to come together as the greatest pro-family state in this country. This legislation, carried by Chairman Kumar, will do just that. Tennesseans deserve appropriate access to care so that they can get treatment for their disease and have safe pregnancies and healthy babies. So I stand before you today asking you to vote yes for House Bill 1379, the Tennessee Pro-Family Building Act, because these kids right here, my 2 babies, they're worth it, and so is everyone else's. And lastly, I'm just holding a fraction of just letters of support ranging from lawyers to CEOs to everyday bankers like myself in support of this bill, and I think you all should have a copy of those packets as well. But I appreciate you, Chairman Hawk and committee members, and again, I ask for your support and your yes vote for House Bill 1379.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you.
Ms. Caldwell, we will allow the same for you. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and who you're with.
Thank you, Chairman Hawk and committee members. Thank you, Chairman Hawk and committee members. My name is Chelsea Caldwell. I'm an adoptee and I suffer from infertility. My husband and I were fortunate enough to have the resources to afford treatment, and I have in vitro fertilization and my doctor to thank for my 2.5-year-old twins. Not everyone, though, can afford to treat this heart-wrenching disease. As a result, fertility treatment becomes an option only to the upper middle class and those who can afford it, or those who choose to go into significant debt. My own struggle affirmed my desire and calling to help those on this same journey. I've devoted my law practice solely to third-party reproduction and devoted hours pro bono to developing and co-authoring this legislation, the Tennessee Pro-Family Building Act. As an adoptee and having infertility, I can affirm that adoption and having a child through fertility treatment are both equally important family-building options that coexist and complement one another. For those who are fortunate enough to get pregnant without medical assistance, Society does not deem it appropriate to ask them to first adopt. Adoption does not treat the disease of infertility, nor does it alleviate an individual or couple's desire to have a child through fertility treatment. It must be understood that while both are options for a person or couple to build their family, it's ultimately up to those individuals or couples to determine if fertility treatment and/or adoption is right for them. Either is a calling. Building a family should not be cost prohibitive. The 7,000 plus advocates in our state are asking for your support to have access for timely and appropriate health care and to have an opportunity to have a child and grow their family here in the state of Tennessee. Thank you again for allowing me to be here with you today, and thank you again for your consideration of my testimony in support of House Bill 1379, and we would greatly appreciate your support on that. And I'm available to answer any questions any of you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for the ladies before us?
Thank you.
You did a great job. No questions,
Thank you very
comments.
much.
Mr. and Ms. Kraft, if you'd like to. Do a little disinfecting there, if it's okay. Since you are coming as a team here, we may stick with the 3 minutes with both of you. That's okay. I understand. Mr. and Ms. Kraft, Andrea, you are recognized. Please tell us who you are and who you're with.
My name is Andrea. This is my husband, Alex Kraft. Thank you, Chairman Hawk and committee. We're Tennesseans currently living in Mount Juliet. We met in college at MTSU in 2010 and got married in 2013. Our infertility journey started in 2015 when I was diagnosed with a hormone disorder called polycystic ovarian syndrome. This was the beginning of a 2.5-year period in which we spent roughly $15,000 on medications, testing, procedures, treatments, because none of these were covered by insurance. In March of 2017, I finally became pregnant with our nothing but a miracle child, Lexi Rose. And you see, I say Lexi is a miracle child not only because of how long it took for us to conceive her, but because when I was 20 weeks pregnant, Alex was diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer. We had to pay $1,500 out of pocket for sperm preservation and storage, and then another $500 to $1,000 every year after to continue to store his fertility. Despite our odds, we were shocked to find I had become pregnant with our son Will in August of 2019. I was about 7 months pregnant when we had to make the decision to use our money for upcoming hospital bills or to continue his sperm preservation. My pregnancy had been totally normal and healthy at that point, so we decided to use that money towards bills and had his sperm discarded. However, 5 days before my induction date, I had been chasing my toddler all day when I realized that I hadn't felt much, if any, movement from my baby. That evening, we went to labor and delivery, and the doctor confirmed that Will no longer had a heartbeat. On April 16th of 2020, Will was stillborn at an even 6 pounds with a true knot in his umbilical cord. We walked out of that hospital without him, and that is something that I would not wish on anyone. We got this teddy bear from a nonprofit organization who makes weighted bears in memory of stillborn babies. It weighs 6 pounds, just like he did, and it's detailed with dinosaur printed fabric, just like his nursery was. This precious teddy bear brings us both comfort and heartache, as you can imagine, but we should have left that hospital with a baby and not a teddy bear. We had another miscarriage this past December, and we don't know why. So I stand here before you all today, all but begging you to vote yes in support of House Bill 1379, Tennessee Pro-Family Building Act, so that couples in Tennessee who are facing infertility can grow their families with the insurance coverage that they need. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. That's obviously a difficult story to express, but thank you for your courage in coming before us. Alex, thank you very much for the courage that you bring to the table as well. Any questions or comments for Dr. Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just want to thank you for your courage. I'm an anesthesiologist, and I've been in the room when they've had to have C-sections for stillborn, and I've cried with patients. But you guys being here, I appreciate you sharing your story, and thank you for being here, and go Blue Raiders.
Yes. Thank you.
Representative Thompson, you're recognized.
Thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I empathize with y'all largely. Dealt with, in my family, we've dealt with infertility a lot. My wife became pregnant after 5 years of treatment. My daughter also had problems, and she finally gave birth to, well, it wasn't her first child, but her last child through IVF last year. My wife at that time had very good insurance, which covered infertility treatment. My daughter and son-in-law did not, their insurance coverage did not cover it, but they had the resources. They had to pay cash for this. So I appreciate and understand a lot of the problems, the heartache, the emotional trauma that comes with this. And I appreciate y'all coming forward as well. And I don't always vote for mandates, but I think it's warranted in this case, and I intend to vote yes on this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to Representative Mitchell.
Yeah, I just want to thank all our guests today. You know, I know the feeling of, you know, each and every year when it's time to reload your flexible spending accounts, you know, you put the maximum you possibly there so you can have another round, another try, you know, and hopefully that 1 year it works. Because, you know, once that one round as a young couple and the money in your flexible spending account plus, you know, the money you've saved up, you can do that one cycle and then to do it again the next year. So I know the trauma you've went through, and it's way past time in our society where, like you said, this is a medical condition that we should treat, and insurance should pay for it. And I wholly support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, Mr. Kraft, thank you all very much.
Thank you very
Once again, we
much.
appreciate you sharing. While we are out of session, does anyone else like to? I have a couple other folks on the list for questions if they do come up later, but seeing no one else that is on the list running forward, I will go back into session. All right, we are back into session. And Chairman Kumar, I believe that in our conversations, this may be another one of those bills, an example where we may have some work to do, but I think in a full committee that we've got some potential amendatory language. Is that accurate, Chairman Kumar?
Certainly. I think it will be good for me to be on the record and explain that. I do want to thank these wonderful Tennesseans for organizing, coming together for a very special cause to them, and I really admire their commitment to it, as well as the courage that they can share their journey with us. And I'm grateful also to our legislators. A number of them in the House have identified with the circumstances. At this time, I'd just like to say that, again, I'm totally convinced that this is a needed effort that we need to go forth with, and I'm grateful for the support from the committee. It is also just to note that 19 other states do provide this coverage. Most of our major insurers do provide coverage in a variable manner, and we are working to improve the fiscal circumstance. We don't want it to be a burden on a small businessman or our insurers and so on. So we are trying to improve that note, and I think that will include certain limits on the expenses. And as we move along in that road, I think it'll be appropriate that that amendment is in progress. And we will come back to full committee with a complete detail.
Thank you, Chairman Kumar. Chairman Terry, for a question or comment, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And that I appreciate Chairman Kumar bringing that out, because while I'm not necessarily opposed to the legislation, and I'm very empathetic with this, I just wanted to point out some of the concerns, including the fiscal note. And as we have other legislation trying to get access for other uninsured patients, any mandate, whether it's this or any other mandate, has the tendency to increase the cost of affordable insurance. And so we need to be cognizant of that moving forward. So I appreciate you working towards that goal. And then I just wanted to point out that in the full committee, and we had this debate last week on a bill about medical necessity, and part of that debate involved emergency care as opposed to non-emergency care. And this says that it would be recommended by a physician as medically necessary. So take that into consideration moving forward, that there are things that fall under EMTALA that physicians see as medically necessary that may not be covered, that we need to look at as well. So thank you.
Points well taken, Chairman Terry. Thank you very much. Further questions or comments? Are you ready to vote? All those in favor of sending House Bill 1379 as amended to full insurance committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any of those opposed, please signify by saying no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves forward, Chairman Kumar. Ms. Walker, I do want to mention your role as Rotarian. I think I mentioned to you as well that my brother is a Rotary of Greenville president who just had their 100th celebration anniversary. So Rotarians from opposite ends of the states, but kindred spirits. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the folks that we've heard from on that. Thank you, Chairman Kumar. We are now on item number 7 on our calendar, House Bill 1015 by Chairman Hicks. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr.
We have a
Chairman.
motion and a second on the bill. I think we have an amendment, Chairman Hicks, as well.
That's correct.
Thank you. Drafting code is 5586. Once again, the amendment, drafting code is 5586. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. In order to get it on the bill, I would like to have a vote. All those in favor of adding amendment number 1, tracking 5586 to House Bill 1015, please signify by saying aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is on the bill. Chairman Hicks, you are now recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and committee, the intent of this legislation is to clarify existing law so that non-insurance discount dental and vision programs that have operated here in the state can continue to be used by and offered to Tennessee consumers. This adds a new chapter to Title 56 to preserve the status quo for dental and vision discount programs, while also strengthening consumer protections and streamlining regulation. And with that, I stand to answer any question.
Thank you for the explanation on the bill, Chairman Hicks. Any questions or comments on the legislation? Seeing none, question has been called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 1015 to full insurance committee, please signify by saying aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Chairman Hicks, your bill moves forward to full insurance committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. We're now on item number 8. All right. Item number 8 is House Bill 419 by Chairman Supicki. Chairman Supicki, we do have a motion and a second on your legislation. I know that we have some amendatory language put before us in amendment number 1. I'll give the tracking code is 5580. Is that accurate, Chairman Sapicki?
We will not be using that one, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That amendment is not going to be entertained by this committee. So we are on House Bill 419. Much like we've seen in a couple other areas on this committee and in discussion with the chairman and others, we work well together and have a very good comfort level of where we're going with this legislation. And I'll recognize you on House Bill 419 and with your intent on the legislation, Chairman Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we left off last week with the bill in the position it is right now, and working with TennCare over this last week. We've gone back and forth a couple times. We missed the deadline to get the actual language on the bill. TennCare has already seen the amendment. What I'm asking for is your permission to send this bill as it is right now to the full committee. And in the full committee, we will put the amendment on that we've agreed with TennCare that puts the bill in the position that now they're deferred on, and we can move forward and get chiropractic care covered in Tennessee.
Thank you. In personal privilege, I will note that this committee seems to be working differently from some other committees, and we've got a great level of respect and trust with each other and for each other, and with the chairman and vice chairman and all of our members. So I feel very comfortable and confident that we're having the proper discussions going forward on this legislation. And not every committee operates this way. No. Not every committee is going to allow bills to go forward, and I hope that this committee recognizes that what we're doing. So, Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I do want for the people that are watching at home to realize that, and working with the sponsor and other members in the discussion we had last week, oftentimes we know where we want to go, but the process just takes a while getting stuff to legal services, and we appreciate everybody working with us on this. And so to reiterate what the chairman has said, we're there. So I'm comfortable with moving this forward. So thank you for working with us.
Appreciate it.
Full disclosure, we missed by 3 minutes. So full disclosure, the timing of the amendment, we missed by just a brief amount of time.
I tried to argue Pacific time. He didn't let me do it. So
it's where you played baseball in Pacific time, I guess is what it was. With the indulgence of everyone, if that's okay, are you ready to vote on the bill? All right. All those in favor of sending House Bill 419 to full insurance committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Your bill moves forward. All right. We are now to item number 9 on our calendar. House Bill 620 by Vice Chair Rutter. We have a motion and a second on your legislation. Chairman Rutter, please give us a brief explanation of your legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I think there is an amendment.
Forgive me, there is. Yes, Amendment Tracking Code 5091. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have a motion and a second the chair has heard on Amendment 5091. We'll go ahead and vote on Amendment 5091. All those in favor of adding this to the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Chair Lady Rutter, we are back on your Bill 620 as amended. You are recognized.
Thank you. This legislation amends the current statute on provider-based telemedicine and allows for the use of HIPAA-compliant audio-only technology for behavioral health services if other means are unavailable. That is the bill.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I'll interject here, Chairman's prerogative. I want to thank you for your work on this. Something that the pandemic has taught us, that a simple phone call can go a long way to preserving someone's mental health and especially in addiction treatment. And this has been of great value to our providers in behavioral health. There has been numerous successes that we've heard and many that we don't hear because of what we've experienced because of this legislation. I appreciate your willingness to work to codify this. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments on the legislation? Seeing none, question is called. All those in favor of sending House Bill 620 to full insurance committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any of those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. House Bill 620 moves forward to full insurance committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to confer with staff to make sure I've not missed anything. Any further questions or comments from committee members before we adjourn? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Quite efficient committee, and I appreciate you very much. We are adjourned.